Hi, good day. This is Cherian Kuruvila, a business mentor, a coach, and a facilitator for the last 16 years. Today's topic is going to be about a topic I spoke about yesterday, and it was around resilience. Resilience. And this was a topic that was chosen as a theme for an employee engagement meeting yesterday at one of my clients. And both the CEO and myself, at two different stages of our lives, uh, spoke about it. We were requested to speak about it, and we spoke about it from our lens, from our experiences, from our journeys, right? What did we think about resilience, and what are the kind of examples that we could give where resilience played out in our lives at different stages, both at the personal and at the professional level, right? And sometime back, a couple of months back, I had done a session for the same client, the entire team, around mindset and wellness. And to me, there was a big connection between mindset, wellness, and resilience. Right? Resilience was like a foundation for for the whole concept of feeling of wellness and feeling of completeness, feeling of balance, right? So one of the slides I had used there was, a visual of a palm tree and a visual of a strong tree, a strong, sturdy tree that's grown for decades, possibly, versus a palm tree, right? And uh, typically, what we see in a storm, the city where we live in Bangalore, it just needs one storm and heavy rain, and you find branches of strong-looking trees falling, right? Just toppling over because they look strong outside, but they are hollow inside or rotten inside, right? Whereas you also see visuals of the palm trees that survive storms, they survive cyclones, they survive typhoons, close to the sea or anywhere, right? They bend and they lose a couple of leaves along the way, but eventually they survive, right? Because they are able to be flexible, they are able to be adaptable, they are able to take that pressure, bend a bit under that pressure at that point of time, but come back straight again at the end of it all. Whereas the strong tree once broken is broken, right? It has to work its way all over. So I think that was one visual that many of the team members could relate to when I spoke about resilience, because you know the typical definition of resilience is about getting up when you fall down, and how quickly you get up when you fall down, and how quickly do you recover when you fall down, right? And how well do you take challenges that come unexpectedly at you, either professionally or personally, right? And I think it's very difficult to keep one away from the other. The personal challenges and professional challenges often intermingle, right? Which is why even when I coach very senior leaders and entrepreneurs and founders, right, it's always about professional areas and personal areas which they need to work on, because they counterbalance each other, or one can mess up the other totally, right? So keeping that in mind, I think some of the pointers which I shared, which have helped me in good stead in my 69-year-old journey so far, and a large chunk of it was working as a professional, and a large chunk was, in the initial student days and hostel days, being in an engineering college, right, and then working yourself up in a corporate ladder, going through all the challenges, going through all the decisions, going through all the difficulties, tumbling along the way sometimes, but getting up, you know. And one of my favorite quotes has always been, in fact, I have two favorite quotes. One of them, of course, is there in my WhatsApp status, which has been there for years now, and that is, my mind is my best friend. My mind is my best friend. And when I say my mind is my best friend, which means my mind does not give the power to anybody else to mess it up, right? Uh, Mind and me are good friends, we're good buddies, right? So we talk to each other, and if something is going off track, and the mind says, get back on track, and we're back on track. So resilience sometimes is not about how quickly you get up when you fall. One of the inputs I gave yesterday is resilience is also about how do you prevent the fall. How do you make sure that you don't fall? How do you make sure you don't slip? How do you make sure you don't go down a hole, right? Because of some comment somebody has said, or somebody has hurt you, somebody has, you're carrying that resentment, you're carrying all the baggage from the past that, it just requires one comment from somebody to trigger you, right? And then when you get triggered, you go down, and then it takes days, sometimes maybe weeks to even recover or even think about forgiving the person or whoever did that, right? So I think resilience is about going above all that and saying, look, I am strong. I can handle challenges along my way. It could be personal or professional, like I said again, right? I could handle a job loss. I could handle a loss of a loved one, and I've done that personally. I've lost 5 of my loved ones from the immediate family over time. And, these were not early days, and, still in your 40s and 50s when all this happens. And you realize that, look, life is limited. Life has an expiry date, and you need to make every day count. And to make that every day count, you need to make it positive, you need to make it energetic, you need to make it, you should become a source of, vibrancy and positivity to the people around you, or the people that you're able to touch, people you're able to influence. And you can't do that if you're always fighting your own battles and trying to sort of put up a brave face. I think it's not about putting up a brave face, it's about being brave. It's about being strong. I know it's easier said than done. Easier said than done for somebody who's really going through those kind of personal challenges, financial challenges, health challenges, right? So my advice has always been to people in their 20s and 30s that, look, it's your habits and choices that you make in your 20s and 30s that play out in your 30s and 40s and 50s, right? Be it on your health choices, be it on your food choices, be it on your exercise choices, be it on the circle of friends that you choose, be it the kind of influences that you're willing to surrender yourself to, and more importantly, how do you protect yourself? How do you build boundaries that people cannot cross, personally or professionally? How do you learn to say no when you have to say no? I have a separate video on the power of no, right? It's just two words, but it's a very powerful 2 words. And often sometimes that inability to say no, the inability to draw boundaries, right, end up hurting you, end up putting you on the defensive, end up making you feel absolutely lousy. And then you sort of think that I've failed, I have not achieved what I wanted to, I have not achieved my potential. And we go into that self-reflective negative trip in life. And I think sometimes it's very difficult to come out of that on your own, right? It's great if you have a friend or a mentor or a coach or a guide or a buddy who can pull you out of it. But many people suffer silently. They don't really try to take help, or they don't want to share their personal challenges with somebody who they don't know that well or not that comfortable opening up with, right? So to me, resilience is whether it's a loss of a loved one, whether it's a loss of a job, whether it's a financial challenge, whether it's a career challenge, which is becoming more and more common these days because one doesn't know where one could be 2 years down the road or 5 years down the road, right? With all this new hullabulla about AI and taking jobs and the need for people becoming less and less, right? So there's a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of stress, there's a lot of pressure, there's a lot of fears, right? Which plays out. It plays out in relationships, it plays out in marriages, it plays out in the workplace, it plays out in insecurities at work and at home. And each of these actually, if you really look at it, are weakening your foundation. And with that weak foundation, it doesn't need a storm to knock you down, right? It doesn't need a storm to knock you down. It just needs a trigger. And if you are able to handle those triggers well, without it affecting you, be able to rise above those storms, if you are able to prevent those storms and come out stronger and say, look, my mind is my best friend. I am in control. And I use practices which calm my mind. It could be meditation, it could be yoga, it could be walking, it could be music, it could be anything that relaxes you and makes you feel whole, right? Not makes you just feel like a robo trying to, just go to work, do work, come back, earn money, come back home, handle the pressures at home, go back to work the next day, and live life like a machine. And the only satisfaction is the bank balance at the end that comes into the account, right? I think life goes beyond money in terms of the kind of fulfillment that you get from doing things that you like, the things that you love. And, it's not that you will not fall, it's not that you will not have challenges, it's not that life is going to be a smooth ride, right? At every stage in your career, in your marriage, in your life, you are going to get tested, right? I keep saying in my 40 odd years of marriage, every 5 years has been different, right? The first 5 years are very different from the current 5 years or the mid 5 years, right? Because we're evolving, we're growing, families are growing, pressures are growing, responsibilities increase, right? Stress increases. It's about how do you navigate that journey without letting the journey overwhelm you, right? I think resilience, like I keep on saying, it's not only about how do you pick yourself up and how quickly do you pick yourself up. It's about how do you prevent those falls. And if you are able to use tools like meditation, yoga, and other hobbies and passions to help, balance out your life, like I said, right? Work and life. Work-life balance is a overused term. But end of the day, I think even when I coach people, it's about getting that balance between work and life, right? Work and family, work and relationships. I think once that starts falling into place, I see a sense of calm coming into the individual, a sense of control coming into the individual, and a sense of now I am doing things which I want in the way I want, right? Of course, I also know that everything is not in my hands, right? There's a higher power, there's a God, there's a universe, there's a supreme power that decides what should happen. And sometimes things happen that you don't know why it happened to you, right? There's no explanation for it, but if it happened to you, it happened to you. Now, there's no point sitting and wallowing in sorrow and pity and self-pity. But saying, okay, it's happened to me, sad that it's happened to me, but maybe it happened for a reason. I'll work around it. I'll come out even stronger from this one. And you see, this is when resilience becomes a part of your nature. Habits that you have, positive habits that you have, become consistent because you like doing it, because for you it matters, right? And when it matters for you and you are feeling complete, it all automatically impacts all the people around you, at home or at work. If you are not at peace, if you are stressed out, if you're under pressure, it is going to play out at home and at work. And that's going to make the situation even worse for you and for them. So I think my simple recommendation and tip to anybody listening to this video is from somebody who's lived 69 years, touching 70. And I would say I can look back with a sense of satisfaction that so far I've managed it pretty well, right? Not that I've not had crises, not that I've not had challenges, but I think it's a way one has just handled it calmly, take it in a stride. And I have one last favorite phrase which always resonates me is that if you stumble or when you stumble, just make it part of the dance. When you stumble, make it part of the dance. The fact of the matter is in life, we will stumble sometime. It's about how do you just continue the dance of life, right? And enjoy each day with gratitude, enjoy each day with humility and say, look, I'm where I am not because of me only, but because of the way the whole system around me has supported me, has encouraged me, and the ones who did not encourage me or discourage me or criticize me are kept aside, right? They don't matter. If they don't care for you, then they don't matter, right? You can try to make up with them up to a point, once, twice, and that's it, right? That ability to say no and draw boundaries, I think, play a huge role in helping you to become a lot more resilient to the challenges which are going to be there in your journey, right? Don't expect a smooth ride. It's never a smooth ride, right? But it's about how do you navigate those rough patches in that smooth ride that really make you or break you. So I hope you found this small video on resilience useful. I know I could not cover everything that possibly needs to get covered. It's a big topic. But if any of you would like to reach out to me and hear more life stories or life experiences at the professional level across 4 decades, or at the personal level across 6 decades, uh, feel free to. I'll be more than happy to share my bit, and more than happy to hear about your journey and how you navigated it. Thank you.